Hello again, wretched surface dwellers. It's your old buddy Pyat. I realize it's been a long time since last we chatted, and I realize that in that time a lot of strange and terrible things have happened on the surface world. I know you're now living in a world of alt-right and alt-facts, and things can be strange and creepy and disturbing. But I want you to know that everything is safe and serene down here in Piazza's fortress, as it always has been, living here as I am at the bottom of a inassailable salt mine protected by a field of triviality, encompassed and encradled within the bosom of the earth. That's not to say that we haven't ventured out sometimes. In the last 11 years, we've been to Ray Bradbury's house, his ravine that inspired him. We've been to H.P. Lovecraft's tomb. We've been to Gary Gygax's house. We've been to the place where the first public games of Dungeons and Dragons were played. We've been to furry conventions. We've interviewed people who knew Dallas Egbert Jr. We've explored the places where Dallas Egbert Jr. walked and lived in the days and months before his unfortunate and untimely death. We've been to the Slant Shack multiple times. We've talked about jazz musicians and polyamory. One time I got stuck in a cave for a little while. That was pretty exciting. I think you were all there, and I'm sure you'll remember it very well. You might be asking yourself, well, Pyat, you've been silent lately, so does that mean that you've not been doing anything? Have you just been staying in Pyat's fortress, safe, reading your old Albedo back issues, and maybe running a space opera adventure for the subterranean underworld dwellers? The answer is, of course, no. I have been venturing out. I'm always out there, pushing the boundaries of the obscure and the absurd. This past spring, I joined a live-action role-playing game, which is to say a LARP, more specifically a camping or boffer LARP, as distinct from a Nordic LARP or a parlor LARP or the other varieties of LARP that exist in the world. This was not my first experience in a LARP, but the first experience was a Vampire the Masquerade Doctor Who crossover at a convention in Chicago in 1997, and I don't think was particularly representative of the breed. Specifically, I was invited by some very dear friends, who I just made last year, to join the Dystopia Rising chapter in Ontario. Ontario, Canada, not Ontario, California. When I joined Dystopia Rising, I entered a strange post-apocalyptic world of zombies and, well, mostly zombies, but there's also strange humans and monsters and factions and plotting and conspiracy and all sorts of the other things that make society go around. In Dystopia Rising, I took on the role of a pacifist teacher named Jessup Dormouse. For those of you who are familiar with Dystopia Rising, he was a baywalker, which means I was a sort of a very pockety sort of guy who was originally from New England, or what used to be New England. My driving purpose in life as this character was to discover and record the migration patterns of the lesser woodland radiation frog, which is a fascinating, beautiful, and sometimes explosive creature, as I'm sure you may know. To that end, and to help achieve my researches, I took into the game an antique box camera dating back from the 1930s. The game has some strict rules about what technology can be brought into the game as your character without having to develop it with the in-game research and invention rules, and the camera, I think, was skirting the edge a bit. I was going to bring a 107-year-old camera into the game, but I thought the metal box, essentially the same technology, would be a bit more durable, and they were kind enough to let me do so. Bringing this camera in game meant that I was able to take a lot of grungy, cool, in-character, scratchy, post-apocalyptic looking sort of portraits of my fellow inhabitants of the world of Dystopia Rising, and specifically the settlement of Second Crossing, which is where our game was set. I really did enjoy my time in Dystopia Rising. I fumbled through the rules a bit, but I got through. I learned how to teach illiterate characters how to read. I learned how to do research and to help other people do research. And I was always an ardent supporter of libraries, literacy, and not being eaten by zombies or killed by other people. Because I entered the game without any combat skills and refused to learn any, I spent a lot of time hiding behind trees or hiding behind people with swords and guns. Every game involved a lot of work and prep work, and every weekend I wondered why I was bothering. But I have to admit, at the end of every weekend I went, I realized just why I'd gone. It was energizing, it was exciting, it was intensely social and invigorating. It was sort of like a gamified exercise. And I had actually some very fond memories of, standing in the moonlight and under the tall pines and listening to the frogs nearby. The Canadian game was small but friendly, and after a few sessions there, I went to a travel session in Indianapolis. The Indianapolis game was much larger, and the game encampment was much more like a community. You could almost imagine it as a post-apocalyptic Ren fair with artists and musicians and farmers and all these people just kind of plying their lives and pretending to live for 48 hours or however many hours in this post-apocalyptic landscape and supporting each other and defending each other from certain death and undeath and the grave mine. I unfortunately cannot go back to the Canadian game, not because I was kicked out for any of my bizarre proclivities, no matter what you may have heard, but rather because there was some problems with the franchising, and so the game had to end late in 2016 for financial reasons. Jessup Dormouse may appear once again in the future at a travel game, or locally if that should happen, to record the post-apocalyptic future in his distinctive, scratchy black and white photos, and hopefully not get eaten by anybody. That's all from Pyat's Fortress. It's been a while, but I hope to see you again soon. Good night, and God bless.